You think silence pushes them away. You think the quiet means it's over, that the connection broke, that the space between you is now a wall. But what if I told you it's not a wall at all? What if I told you that silence, real, grounded, intentional silence, isn't disconnection, but communication? See, most people panic when silence shows up. We start overthinking. We replay every word we said. We analyze every text we didn't get back. We let the stillness become a story of rejection. But silence isn't rejection. It's regulation. It's the body saying, I need a breath before I break. It's your nervous system whispering, stop performing. Just pause. When we talk about silence, we often treat it like a punishment. We weaponize it. We say, fine, I'll match your energy. We think pulling back will prove something. But silence isn't power when it's filled with resentment. It's power when it's filled with peace. You see, this isn't about them right now. This is about you. When you stop chasing, when you stop filling every gap with words, explanations, and apologies, you start hearing something deeper. You start hearing yourself, your body, your intuition, your truth, because silence, when it's intentional, is clarity. It's a pause that lets your nervous system find safety again. And that safety, that grounded, steady energy is exactly what another person's nervous system needs to trust you. Think about it. You can't hold space for someone else if you can't hold space for yourself. You can't create calm connection when your energy screams urgency. You can't teach safety while you're spinning in fear. So let's flip the narrative. Silence isn't the end. It's the beginning of self-leadership. It's not the moment they stop caring, it's the moment you stop losing yourself. In fact, the most powerful shift in any relationship happens not when you speak louder, but when you stop speaking from panic. The quiet becomes the teacher. The space becomes the mirror. And that's what this conversation is about. I want to show you exactly what happens inside your nervous system and theirs when you finally stop chasing, when you stop trying to fill every silence, when you let the quiet do the heavy lifting. Because silence isn't distance. It's data. It's information about what your energy has been communicating all along. And once you understand how to read that data, everything changes. Connection stops being a guessing game and starts being a nervous system dialogue. So stay with me, because in the next section, I'm going to show you why silence feels so uncomfortable, what it really triggers inside you and them, and how understanding that can rewrite every relationship in your life. Let's talk about what's really happening beneath the silence. Because this right here is the part no one explains. We don't just react to people. We react to energy. And that energy lives in one place, your nervous system. See, the nervous system is ancient. It's not logical. It doesn't care about your text messages, your timelines, or your perfectly reasoned explanations. Its job is simple. Keep you safe. So when your body senses connection as safety, it relaxes. You breathe deeper. You think clearly. You feel open. But when your body senses connection as danger, even the hint of unpredictability, it shuts down. It withdraws. It builds walls. That's what most people never realize about the avoidant, the distant, the one who goes quiet. They're not avoiding you. They're avoiding vulnerability without safety. Their body has learned that closeness equals chaos. That love means loss of control. That intimacy threatens autonomy. And so when connection starts to feel too close, too fast, or too demanding, their nervous system flips the alarm. Fight, flight, freeze, gone. And if you're the one on the other side, especially if you're an anxious type, you feel that withdrawal like rejection, your nervous system screams, something's wrong, fix it, move closer. So you text, you explain, you try harder, and suddenly, both of you are out of sync. One person's nervous system is saying, I need space to feel safe. The other is saying, I need closeness to feel safe. Neither is wrong. Both are scared. This is why chasing fails. Because when you reach towards someone whose nervous system is already overwhelmed, your energy, no matter how loving, lands as threat. They don't hear your words, they feel your urgency. And their body retreats even more. Now, here's where it gets powerful. When you learn to regulate your own nervous system, to slow your breath, to sit in stillness, to stop reacting, you start sending a completely different signal. Your energy says, you're safe here. It says, I can hold space without controlling it. It says, I won't rush your process to ease my discomfort. And that's the moment everything shifts. Because your calm becomes contagious. This is called co-regulation. It's the invisible dance between two nervous systems when one person's steadiness starts to soothe the other's survival response. It's how connection is built not through words, but through safety signals. When your nervous system calms, theirs starts to follow. When you stop chasing, they stop running. When you breathe, they exhale. That's not psychology. That's biology. It's how every human being is wired. So if silence feels unbearable, that's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign your nervous system is asking for repair. And when you give it that through calm, breath, patience, you start to reprogram the entire dynamic. Because here's the truth. You can't create emotional safety for someone else if your own body is still in fight or flight. You can't be the calm if you're still the storm. So before we talk about how silence becomes power, before we turn it into action, we've got to understand this. Safety isn't built through effort, it's built through energy. And the moment your energy becomes steady, connection becomes possible again. In the next part, I'm going to show you exactly why chasing fails. Not emotionally, not morally, but biologically. You'll see how urgency communicates fear and how peace communicates strength. Because once you get that, you'll never chase again. You'll lead through calm. Let's get honest. When someone pulls away from you, what's your first instinct? You reach out, you text, you explain, you try to make sense of it. You think if you can just say the right thing, show the right effort, remind them how much you care, they'll come back. But they don't. They pull back further, and you're left confused, maybe angry, maybe ashamed, asking yourself, why does showing love make them leave? Here's why. Because love without safety lands as pressure. Your words might say, I care, but your energy says, I need you to fix my fear. And the human nervous system, especially an avoidant one, cannot interpret pressure as love. It reads it as threat. Let's break that down. When you chase, what you're really trying to do is regulate your own discomfort. You're anxious, you feel distance, so your brain says, move closer, fix it, restore connection. That's survival logic. But when you do that towards someone whose survival logic says distance keeps me safe, it collides. It's biology clashing with biology. Your pursuit is their panic. Your closeness is their control loss. Your reassurance feels like interrogation. And the harder you try to close the gap, the wider it gets. This isn't because they don't love you. It's because their body has learned that intimacy equals engulfment. So when you come forward fast, they can't see your love. They only feel your intensity. And intensity, to the avoidant, equals danger. That's the paradox. The more you chase, the more they retreat. The more you explain, the more they shut down. The more you prove, the more they doubt. Because pressure doesn't build connection, it breaks safety. Now, here's the shift. When you understand this isn't personal, it's physiological, you stop taking it as rejection and start seeing it as information. Their nervous system isn't rejecting you. It's rejecting speed. That's what chasing is. It's speed. Too fast for safety, too fast for trust, and safety never grows in fast soil. So what do you do instead? You slow down. You breathe. You stay calm in the face of distance. Because calm is the only energy the avoidant nervous system doesn't defend against. When you stop matching their fear with your fear, the entire dance changes. Let me say this again. You can't talk your way into safety. You have to embody it. Your silence, if it's peaceful, communicates, I'm not a threat. Your stillness says, I can hold this space without panic. Your emotional neutrality tells them, connection with me won't cost your autonomy. And suddenly, what was once pursuit becomes invitation. What was once pressure becomes peace. And peace is magnetic because nothing makes a dysregulated nervous system trust you faster than your steadiness. So the next time you feel the urge to chase, to fix, to explain, pause. Remember this. The moment you stop trying to force connection, you create the conditions where connection can actually happen. You don't need to do more. You need to be less reactive. Because when your nervous system is grounded, it's not just your body that relaxes, theirs does too. That's how chasing ends and leading begins. And in the next section, I'll show you exactly how that calm turns into power, how silence, when held correctly, becomes a reset button for both of you. This is where we move from reaction to regulation, from effort to energy. Because silence isn't absence, it's the beginning of alignment. Let's slow this all the way down, because this right here is where silence turns into strength. This is what I call the silence reset. Silence on its own doesn't heal anything. What heals is the energy you bring into it. Your silence can either scream anxiety or radiate peace. And that difference determines everything that happens next. So let's walk through how to make your silence safe. It starts with 3 stages: detachment, regulation, and consistency. Stage it, detachment. This is the hardest one because it feels like doing nothing. But detachment isn't cold, it's clean. It's the moment you stop performing for someone else's attention and start returning to your own center. When your mind says, text them, reach out, fix this, you pause. You remind yourself this isn't about control, this is about clarity. You count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And instead of acting from panic, you act from presence. You do something that anchors you back in you. Go for a walk, breathe, step outside, write down what you're actually feeling. You're teaching your body that safety can come from self, not reaction. Stage 2, regulation. Now, this is where the magic happens. When your nervous system feels threatened by silence, by distance, by uncertainty, it starts spinning stories. They're gone. They don't care. I did something wrong. But none of that is data. That's just dysregulation. So you interrupt it. You take 3 deep breaths, slow, steady, through your nose, out through your mouth, and you remind yourself, I am safe, even in silence. Because until your body believes you're safe, your brain can't think clearly, and your words, if you do speak, won't come from truth. They'll come from fear. When you regulate, you're no longer trying to get calm from the other person. You become the calm. And that shift, that's leadership. Stage 3, consistency. This is where safety becomes visible. Anyone can be calm for a moment. The power comes from staying that way when nothing's changing externally. You keep showing up to your own peace every day, even when silence stays. You hold the same tone, the same boundaries, the same emotional baseline, steady, warm, unreactive. Because that consistency tells the other person's nervous system, this is real, this is safe. And slowly, without words, they begin to feel it. Your stillness starts to regulate their chaos. Your steadiness becomes their mirror. Remember this, safety isn't built through promises. It's built through patterns. And the pattern that rewires every avoidant nervous system is calm, that doesn't collapse under pressure. That's what the silence reset really is. It's not withdrawal. It's recentering. It's you reclaiming the one thing you actually control, your own energy. And I know that can sound abstract, so let me make it real. Think of the last time someone stayed calm when you were upset. They didn't fix you. They didn't chase you. They just stayed present. Do you remember how safe that felt? That's the power you're learning to hold. Your silence works not because it's quiet, but because it's peaceful. It says, you don't have to run from me. You don't have to fix me. I'm already okay. And that energy is magnetic. So when you feel silence between you and someone else, stop asking, what are they thinking? Start asking, what am I radiating? Because that's what's speaking the loudest. In the next part, I'm going to show you how this energy becomes contagious, how your calm starts to teach their nervous system that connection doesn't have to equal chaos. This is the mirror effect, the invisible language that transforms every relationship you have. This is the part people miss completely because they keep asking, what should I say? But when it comes to connection, especially with an avoidant, what you say matters a lot less than how you show up. Your energy is speaking before your words ever do. It's either saying you're safe with me or you're responsible for my emotions. And people can feel the difference instantly, even if they can't explain it. That's what I call the mirror effect. When you calm your own nervous system, you're not just regulating yourself, you're training the relationship. You're showing, not telling, what safety feels like. And their body, yes, their body starts to mirror that. Here's how it works. Every human being has something called mirror neurons. They're part of what makes us empathetic. They literally copy the emotional state of whoever we're around. So when your energy is frantic, their body feels it. But when your energy is grounded, steady, warm, unhurried, their body starts to match it. That's why calm people are magnetic. They don't demand peace, they become it. And everyone around them feels relief, even if they don't understand why. This is what happens in relationships when you stop chasing. At first, they might interpret your silence as withdrawal. They're watching, waiting, testing. Are you angry? Are you done? But when you stay consistent, no coldness, no game, no guilt, something shifts. Their nervous system realizes, wait, this silence doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like rest. And that moment right there is when the mirror flips. Because now they're not reacting to your panic, they're responding to your peace. They start to breathe easier. They start to feel drawn toward you again, not out of fear or guilt, but curiosity. Your energy starts whispering, you can be yourself here. You don't have to brace for impact. That's the paradox most people never learn. You don't have to explain calm to someone for them to feel it. You just have to live it long enough for their body to believe you. So when the avoidant begins to soften, when they text you after weeks of silence, when they initiate a small gesture, when they open up one layer deeper, it's not random. It's biology responding to safety. It's their nervous system saying, okay, I can approach now. This isn't danger anymore. And when that happens, your only job is to hold steady, not to rush in with relief or over-explain or prove your growth. Just stay consistent. Because if calm built the bridge, only calm can keep it strong. The mirror effect teaches us something profound. You don't fix relationships by controlling them. You transform them by leading with the energy you wish they would match. That's the quiet kind of leadership most people overlook. It doesn't demand. It doesn't chase. It doesn't perform. It simply is. So I want you to remember this. Every time you choose stillness over panic, reflection over reaction, you are teaching someone else's nervous system how to feel safe again. You are modeling peace. You are rewriting what love feels like in their body. And that's power, real power. In the next section, we're going deeper, not into them, but into you. Because silence isn't only a message to another person, it's a mirror for yourself. It reveals the parts of you that still equate love with effort, connection with control, and peace with danger. And once you see that, everything changes. Let's turn the mirror around. Because silence isn't just showing you who they are, it's showing you who you've been. When the noise stops, when you stop texting, explaining, fixing what's left, your thoughts, your fears, your habits, your need to know. And that's where the real work begins. See, silence reveals how comfortable you are with your own company. It shows whether you've been building connection or dependency. It exposes whether you've been chasing reassurance because you love them or because you've been afraid to lose your sense of worth without them. That's not judgment. That's truth. And truth, even when it hurts, is healing. If silence feels unbearable, it's not because you're weak. It's because somewhere along the way, you learned that peace feels unsafe. Maybe calm was the silence before an argument. Maybe stillness meant abandonment. Maybe quiet once meant rejection. So now, when things go silent, your body panics because it remembers. It thinks the quiet means danger. But here's the beautiful part. This is your chance to rewrite that story. You get to teach your nervous system that stillness doesn't have to mean loss. It can mean alignment. It can mean clarity. It can mean self-leadership. Let me say this as clearly as I can. Your silence isn't about manipulating someone else. It's about meeting yourself. When you stop performing for connection, you finally meet the version of you that exists without audience or approval. And for many people, that's the first time they've ever truly met themselves. So when you start to feel the ache, the emptiness, the urge to check your phone, the pull to break no contact, pause and ask, what part of me is asking for safety right now? Because it's never about them. It's about the part of you that's scared to sit in uncertainty. The part that believes love must always be proven. The part that still confuses peace with punishment. Your job in that moment is not to chase. It's to comfort that part of you, to remind it, we are safe, even without response. Every time you do that, you rewire your body. You shift from needing someone else to regulate your peace to becoming your own anchor. You start to realize you never needed them to calm your storm. You just needed to learn how to hold your own ocean. That's the gift of silence. It teaches you emotional independence. It teaches you that you can feel alone and still be whole. It teaches you that self-worth isn't earned through proximity, it's built through presence. And when you reach that place, something powerful happens. The energy between you and the other person shifts completely because now you're not reaching from lack, you're radiating from fullness. And that fullness, that grounded, centered presence is what actually creates attraction, respect, and safety. So don't rush this stage. Let it unfold. Let the quiet work on you, because this silence isn't punishing you, it's preparing you. In the next section, we're going to talk about what happens when all of this inner work starts to manifest outward. When the energy between you begins to shift, when the avoidance starts to notice, when silence stops being separation and becomes communication. That's the moment where everything starts to move. And that's what we'll talk about next. This is the part nobody prepares you for. The quiet turning point when your silence starts to work. At first, it doesn't feel like it's working. It feels lonely, empty, endless. You think they haven't reached out, so nothing's changing. But something is changing. You just can't see it yet. Because before silence works in them, it works in you. Your body begins to calm. Your thoughts slow down. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You start sleeping better, eating better, breathing deeper, and suddenly you realize you're not in survival mode anymore. You're in self-respect. That's the first shift, and that energy doesn't go unnoticed. Because whether you believe it or not, people can feel it when you stop chasing. The dynamic between you starts to rebalance. The tension they once felt, the emotional pull, the expectation, the urgency, it disappears. And in that space, curiosity begins to grow. They start to wonder. They start to notice the silence, not as absence, but as presence. Why do I feel their energy differently? Why isn't there pressure anymore? Why does this quiet feel safe now? And that curiosity is the first sign the connection is beginning to rewire. When you stop demanding, they stop defending. When you stop over-explaining, they start listening internally. When you stop needing them to see you, they finally can. It's subtle at first, tiny signals that safety has started to land. A shorter silence before they reply. A softer tone in a message. A question that shows thoughtfulness instead of avoidance. They start reaching out, not because they were chased, but because they choose to. That's when you know the dynamic has flipped. But here's the key. When that shift happens, your job is not to rush back in, because the moment you do, their nervous system will read it as pressure again. You have to stay steady. You have to respond with warmth, not weight. Kindness, not urgency. Openness, not overthinking. Remember, what built the bridge is what keeps it standing. Your calm made this possible. Your peace invited them back. So you protect that peace at all costs. You don't have to prove you've changed. Your energy already shows it. You don't have to explain your silence. Your steadiness already speaks louder. When you stay consistent and calm, you show them that connection doesn't mean control. That love doesn't have to mean chaos. That closeness can coexist with autonomy. That's what safety feels like to an avoidant. That's what they crave without knowing how to ask for it. And that's what you've created, a space where connection is voluntary, not coerced. This is the turning point, the moment when what felt like loss becomes leadership. When silence stops being a void and starts being an invitation. So if you're in that moment, if they're coming forward, if things are shifting, don't rush. Breathe. Let the connection evolve naturally. Because the only way to keep peace alive is to protect the energy that created it. And when you do that, silence transforms from separation into stability. Now that you understand how the dynamic changes between you, we need to go one level deeper, because this isn't just about relationships anymore. It's about freedom. Freedom from chasing, from fear, from confusion. Freedom to live, lead, and love without losing yourself again. That's where we're heading next. Let's talk about what this is really about, because this was never about getting someone to change. It was about remembering that you didn't go silent to manipulate. You went silent to liberate. You stopped explaining because you realized peace doesn't need to be proven. You stopped chasing because you remembered what's meant for you doesn't require pursuit, it requires presence. And for the first time in a long time, your energy finally belongs to you. That's what freedom looks like. See, I want you to hear me clearly on this. You are not doing a strategy. You are living a standard. There's a huge difference. Strategies are external. They're about control. Say this, wait that many days, do this to get them back. That's not growth. That's performance. But standards, those are internal. They say, I will not abandon myself to keep anyone else comfortable. They say, I will lead with peace, not panic. They say, if connection costs me my self-trust, it's too expensive. When you hold those standards long enough, something incredible happens. You stop chasing relationships and start attracting alignment. You stop explaining yourself to people who were never listening. You stop needing closure from someone else because you've already given it to yourself. That's the real outcome of silence. It's not reconciliation, it's realization. Realization that you were never powerless, that you never needed to beg for attention, that your calm was always your loudest voice. And once you reach that understanding, you start seeing every connection differently. You no longer ask, how can I make them stay? You start asking, does this space feel safe for me? Because now you understand that safety isn't the reward for connection, it's the requirement. You no longer chase people who confuse peace with boredom or passion with chaos. You start to choose people whose nervous systems recognize calm as home. And that choice changes your entire life. Because freedom isn't walking away, it's walking differently. It's moving through relationships with awareness, not anxiety. It's expressing love without losing identity. It's showing up fully without collapsing into someone else's story. You're no longer reacting, you're leading. Not through control, but through composure. Not through dominance, but through dignity. That's emotional maturity. That's emotional intelligence in action. And when you embody that, you stop repeating cycles. You stop replaying The same story with different names. You start writing something new, something anchored, balanced, peaceful. So when people ask, does silence really work? You can tell them the truth. Yes, but not because it brought them back. Because it brought me back. That's the freedom you've been chasing all along. Not the person, but the peace. And the more you live in that peace, the more life begins to mirror it back to you. Better connections, deeper friendships, healthier love, calmer days, quieter nights. That's the real reward. And no one can take it from you because it doesn't depend on anyone else. So this right here is your moment to stop playing by formulas and start living by principles. To stop waiting for them to change and start mastering your own state. Because when you do, the whole world starts responding differently to your energy. In the final part, I'm going to bring it all together to show you why peace isn't weakness and how silence isn't the end of connection, but the beginning of leadership. Because once you understand that, you'll never be afraid of quiet again. So let's end where we began, with silence. You thought silence was a loss. You thought it meant they stopped caring, that something broke, that you had failed. But now you know the truth. Silence wasn't rejection. It was the invitation. It was the moment life handed you a mirror and said, look at how you've been chasing love. Look at how you've been trying to earn what can only be received. Look at how much peace you've been willing to trade just to feel seen. And then it asked, isn't it time you came home to yourself? Because silence isn't the absence of connection, it's the birthplace of it. Every deep bond starts in stillness. Every healed relationship begins with one person deciding to stop reacting and start reflecting. That's you now. You've learned that calm isn't passive, it's powerful. That peace isn't the end of love, it's the foundation of it. That you don't lead through control, you lead through composure. You've learned that you don't have to fill every gap with words for love to exist inside it. You've learned that the quiet can speak louder than any plea. You've learned that the most magnetic energy in the world is self-trust, and that's what you've built. You've learned to hold silence without spiraling, to hold uncertainty without chasing, to hold love without losing yourself. That's mastery. That's growth. That's peace. So when life gets loud again, when people pull away, when confusion creeps in, when you feel that old urge to explain or prove or perform, pause, breathe. Remember this moment. You don't have to earn peace anymore. You are peace. You don't have to force understanding. You model it. You don't have to demand connection. You invite it through your energy, through your steadiness, through your quiet self-assurance. Because in a world full of noise, the quietest energy always leads. And maybe that's what the silence was trying to teach you all along, that you were never too much. You were just surrounded by people who didn't know how to rest in the presence of calm. But you do now. And that means you'll never chase again. You'll never beg for validation again. You'll never confuse chaos for love again, because peace has become your home. So if you remember nothing else from this entire message, remember this. Silence doesn't end love. It refines it. It burns away the need to control. And what's left, what survives that fire, is truth. And the truth is simple. The avoidant doesn't respond to pressure. They respond to peace. And when peace becomes who you are, connection becomes inevitable. So walk with that energy. Lead with that calm. And when the world tries to rush you, pull you, provoke you, stand still, because the one who is calm always leads.